Everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, super. Well, Jack asked me to say a few words about what life's like or it's been this last year as an AG, and so I went to my phone and I looked back to see what kind of what things I could come up with that might make for an interesting discussion. And a couple of these first slides are from actually the installation luncheon we had in Longview. And even at that meeting, I knew things were going to be different. We had a lot of us wearing masks. There was frankly less interaction amongst folks outside your table. And as a new AG, to me was initially, frankly, overwhelming. And I kept thinking, this is a great gathering, but how are we going to communicate as AGs going forward? So as the gathering closed and as we were shipped out into the world to visit our clubs, a couple of things were pretty evident to me. And Lee and others have made some of these comments, and I want to underscore them. You know, and just in my area, we had clubs that struggled even to meet. Some were able to break through, but many were hesitant. But I got to tell you, as I interacted with them and began to interact with many of those of you on this call, I came to learn that there really was no loss of the Rotary spirit. And in fact, despite the challenges, there were more and more opportunities that got my attention. So this particular slide is what I call the beginning and the end slide. There's my leader, Jack, on the left. And there is Sam, who's on the call today, thrilled that he is no longer an AG for the 11th or 12th year. I forget how many years he'd been on there. What I discovered, though, was that as we moved out as AGs and activities came to pass, that lots of training became virtual. And lo and behold, here we are a year plus later, and lots of training and recognition is still virtual. So this happens to be a slide of some of my favorite friends and cohorts during PETS training, but there also were opportunities for recognition, much like we're doing today. We found ways to send the Rotary message out to all of our audiences. And another way that happened was in fact, and here are some more photos of district training. I promise I did not attempt to get a photo of every single one of you who is on this training or this gathering today, but I think I came close. So you see a couple of the fellows here, even more on this slide. But as we passed through the training initiatives as AGs, we also began to get opportunities for anniversary events. And you've heard some of them tonight or today. You know, in my case, the Mineola Club's 80th, the Quitman's Club's 75th. We had 200-year clubs, and that gave a lot of us as AGs opportunities to interact with other groups. And a really, I know many of them are on the call today, but it really was a tremendous opportunity for new AGs like me to get to know the past district governors and the past leadership. And I'll tell you that almost without exception, those folks were always willing to assist, to sub in, and generally help spread the cheer of Rotary during a challenging time. And in fact, I've got a photo here in a minute, but I want to underscore another thing Lee said. You know, in one specific instance, in this case, we've outed him, Winsboro, they hadn't had a meeting in, Lord, we don't know how long. But a number of the past, present, and thank you, Carolyn, future district governors all converged on our small Winsboro club. And Lee gave you some of the particulars on their growth trajectory. I think another thing I might also mention was folks, as Jack and I came to visit the clubs in our area, local groups were also able to tap into some perhaps latent resources. I know the clubs in this area have become more involved with our East Texas legislators, our state rep, our state senator. In a couple of instances, we've actually had our congressman plugged in this last year. This happens to be a club visit from Big Sandy. Another small club that is deeply ingrained in that community is the DGs, past DGs on this call can attest to. And here's one of my favorite photos. This is across the street from the Rotary Club in Winsboro, in a building that belies the fact that its main conference room is called the Rotary Room. Here is Jack and a number of those past governors, family members. Ava's there. Just a terrific way to kick back off the spirit of Rotary in a club that had been closed for virtually a year. So there have been other opportunities. Here's for a reminder of all of you who have never been to a Big Sandy. This is not a seance. This is the Big Sandy Club's annual Blue Moon gathering. And due to the coloring, I dispensed with any of the other photos. But trust me, it is a great time. And that alone, Jack, is what we probably ought to send people when you and Mike and Carolyn are recruiting new AGs. Tell them about the steak and the blue lights in Big Sandy. The next slide, while we talk about some of those club visits, again, as an AG, the opportunity to get to visit other clubs, major events, milestones, in this case, recognizing Shirley's marvelous individual and leadership contributions. Those are inspiring moments. The ability to get to meet some of these local, regional and national Rotarians live and in person, in addition to days like today, and hanging with, who can resist the opportunity to hang with Louis Gohmert, right? I mean, Louis is quite the character and big fan of Rotary. As we mentioned before, there have been a number of milestones. And one of the things that some of the local clubs, at least in this neck of the district, have done is to take some of that Henderson magic that Lee was talking about. We've been distributing that packet since the, in fact, we'll have a slide here, Mike, from when you came online. But we packaged that packet of material and given it to folks. And in this case, here's a photo of the Quitman Club at their 75th. And you see past DG Bill there on the right. On the left, you see the mayor, the county judge. She is the one to the left of Randy Dunn, the mayor. She was so impressed with that activity that she joined the club. So we've got a county judge now in the Quitman Club, and pleased to have that. But there have been, this particular slide, again, from the same thing, happens to have on the left representatives from Congressman Gooden's office. We also have, in fact, the person speaking is an individual whose father was a longtime Rotarian in Tyler. We've got state senator and state representatives there as well. And we are fortunate to have on the right, as you see, a great baker in town that makes a terrific Rotary anniversary cake. So we had her do Mineolas. She was such a big hit. We're doing the one in Quitman as well. And again, here you see, again, just some more materials from, in this case, it happens, this one's the Quitman Club, various milestones. So many of us grew up in an environment that talked about celebrating success. And I think one of the things that Jack did as our leader to, I know me, and I believe I can speak for the other AGs, is he looked for and cheerleaded opportunities for success and recognition. And as you've heard from a number of the speakers today, that sense of worth and belonging in a value, whether in a small hospital in a rural part of South America or in anywhere within the East Texas area, is something, that recognition, that sense of worth is, I think, one of the things that we all strive for. Another thing that I wrote down here was, while the district events more and more became virtual, and reiterating again a prior comment, you know, I don't think that anyone would claim that our District 5830 Rotarians lost sight on polio, or on Polio Plus, or on foundation efforts. And in fact, this year, I think our little little iron lung machine over there on the left has gotten a workout. I mean, I see it at parades and anniversary gatherings, continuing to showcase our signature effort for polio eradication. So I think the other thing that I noticed as an AG, let's see, and here's some more milestones, Congressman and Jack hanging out again, virtually at any and every event he got invited to. Jack was there. But I think the other thing that I heard today from some of the presenters, and maybe I'll just bring another element about it. I think we've had a tremendous increase from what the sages tell me in Paul Harris Fellowship growth this year. And I think that ability to be that donor, to wear that lapel pin, to be a part of that is an important aspect of what we as assistant governors can project and engage. It's true that we have had a number of programs such as RILA that were up and down when we talk about ups and downs. But, you know, I think even with that issue, and it's obviously an important area for us, the youth, I don't think even with some of the hiccups or the disappointments that we really ever lost our core. And by that, I mean the core concepts of Rotary we're speaking about today, we're learning more about. Those areas, I think, are still true. I think they're still valuable. And I'm getting jazzed up, as others have said, just listening today to some of these other programs. We've gotten to the point over in this neck of the district that if you ever need a proclamation from a senator, governor, or congressman, let us know. We've got plenty of those ready to go. Here's an area I do want to highlight, because this past week, I think many of you got the letter. I think it's still this week, all the way till midnight tonight, was an effort to engage Kiwanians, Rotarians, optimists, and for all I know, Knights of Pythias members to do things together. And in this particular case, we have an example of the local Kiwanis and Rotary clubs doing a joint golf tournament that raised money for Rotary scholarships and also some activity in the local Kiwanis group related to their school thing. So, you know, we talked a little bit throughout the year about trying to find ways to think out of the box. This is probably an example. All of us have some kind of a golf tournament. Large clubs do it on their own, but I offer up that smaller clubs can be paired with other service groups in their area. Here's some more golf tournament photos. Here's another thing that's come to pass. This has come from the Richardson, Dallas community area Rotary and other service groups. They have electronic recycling, and in this case, Mineola and soon to be Quitman. You can literally raise thousands of dollars getting these folks to show up with giant 18-wheel trucks to take away some of the oldest computer gear you've ever seen in your life. I know it's been mentioned before, but I think it bears knowing that the tremendous impact that local Rotary groups have in the food pantry business, with the East Texas Food Bank, with local church and charitable organizations. I happen to have a young man staying with us who just joined the East Texas Food Bank as the Director of Community Engagement. In fact, we had him at Quitman's Rotary yesterday. That effort, that visibility, and here's another one where with our Rainbow Room, in this case, the Quitman Club, working with those areas. You know, for many of us, that's our core. That's our purpose of why we got into Rotary. Some of it's international, some of it's local. And here's Sam. You can't miss a picture of putting Sam behind the booth. He and Tommy Brown. This is at the Old Settlers Reunion. I think it's about the 109th year. And Sam's been there, not all of those 109, but certainly probably 29. I do want to say a couple of words to really reinforce what Lee mentioned about visioning. It is so important, and I've been fortunate with other AGs to be a part of some of the visioning activities this year. You know, the central concept or core of visioning is, what would your club look like if you implemented a new vision in the next 3 years? And one of the things that we talk about in that is your ability to increase your adaptability, your outreach, participant engagement. How do you increase your impact? These programs, and I've got a couple of photos here. This one, I think most recently is Lee and Sam and I and a number of in Tyler. We also did one in, we've had several, but we did the Longview one was particularly impactful as well. You know, when you look to find a way to put teeth to the Rotary vision of how we see a world where people unite, take action, create lasting change across the globe and in our communities and ourselves, club visioning, I'm here to tell you, is that place. So increasing impact, expanding reach, enhancing our participants' engagement, and increasing our ability to adapt. This program of just 4, 5, 6 hours tops gets an organization and individuals to understand who they are, where they are, what do they want to get, and gives us concrete steps, concrete tools to get there. So I really, I know you've heard about it from Jack, you're hearing it from Mike, Lee's reinforced it. Everyone who has been a part of it wants to spend more time with it. And I can tell you that as a human resources guy, if you don't have planning at the core of what you're doing, it's hard to get farther along than just modeling. In our Rotary International Club visioning experience, let me put it another way. It is no secret that some of, in fact, all of our best clubs, our strongest clubs, our deepest clubs, our most impactful clubs are veterans of and participants in club visioning. So, you know, I guess I could leave it at that. I don't want to, Sam will have to do a pitch pretty soon on club visioning for Mike as well. So I don't want to steal his thunder. But do believe me when I say, I mean, that is one of those things that if once you're involved and you've been a part of it, you're going to want to continue to do that. And you're going to want to help other people with that exercise too. So please do that. As I close, so we talked at the very beginning of what it looked like in Longview when Jack took the helm. Here's a couple of photos of our man Mike picking up the baton, the mantle, Jack getting some much needed recognition. That was, again, another great program. And as Lee mentioned, get with Lee or others that have that Henderson program, but for recruiting, because it will work. And not just that, but today and every time, at least as an AG, I've gotten together in one of these activities, events, district conferences, training sessions, you walk away with a bunch of neat new stuff. So I hope that gives you a little sense of maybe the uncertainty of the AG experience, at least for a new guy this year, but the enjoyment, the potential. Again, I want to really thank Jack. He has spent a great deal of time rounding up the AGs, keeping us involved, keeping us encouraged. So thank you for that, Jack. And for an old political guy like me, you know, it's not so bad to show up at all these Rotary events and get to run around with all kinds of, at least in this case, the guy in the middle is still, he's the gold standard for what a wacky congressman is like. But Lance on the left and Judge Starr on the right, it's been a fun ride. So thank you, Jack. And for those who are thinking about being an AG, I can't promise you'll meet guys like this. You'll probably meet neater people, but it's been a good year. So,
Greg, thank you very much. It's a great presentation. We very much appreciate what you've done.